Tenpenny Tower is the home to many of the rich and famous of the capital wasteland, but perhaps none are quite as famous as Herbert daring Dashwood. An adventurer and romantic in his youth, Herbert Dashwood is now retired from adventuring and spends most of his days in his bedroom listening to the radio.
Herbert Dashwood, damn glad to meet you. Call me Daring. Everyone else does.
We can indicate how unimpressed we are at his reputation by saying nothing.
Not very lively, are you? Perhaps you're just bored. You should go on an adventure. Nothing like a little bit of the unknown to motivate a person.
Shouldn't you be napping or something?
Got a fire up your butt, huh? Better put that to good use. Go out exploring. Don't hang around these fools. You'll only want to blow your brains out. Ah, to be young again.
Daring? Bet you had to earn that nickname, huh?
Maybe you've heard the GNR radio play? The Adventures of Herbert Daring Dashwood? That's about me, you know. Based on my, earlier days. I even had a ghoul manservant. Let me ask you, you ever met a ghoul before?
The only thing I like less than ghouls are old geezers like you giving me orders.
If you weren't a child, I'd show you what this old man can do.
Sure, I know lots of ghouls. Killed my fair share, too.
Well, then you know that some ghouls aren't feral and can be reasoned with.
Yeah, I've met some ghouls. They're people, just trying to get by.
Ah, you've already learned some wisdom in your youth. Congratulations.
You mentioned something about Galaxy News Radio earlier. Care to elaborate?
Haven't you ever heard the radio play? The Adventures of Herbert Daring Dashwood? That guy at the radio station put it together a few years ago. He did it in the style of those shows they had before the war. Came out pretty well. And it's all true. Rockopolis, Miss Chase, all of it. Of course, they do portray me as a bit of a chump. Argyle may have saved my hide more than once, but I had my moments. Ah, those were the days.
Tell me about Argyle.
Argyle was my manservant. Ah, but that's really just a fancy word for the guy who saves my sorry skin on a regular occasion. He was a ghoul, you see. Been around since before the war. We met when I stole his girlfriend back in '41. We'd been best friends ever since. We got separated a long time ago and never reunited. If you find Argyle out there somewhere, you be sure and tell me, okay?
Okay, will do.
Don't forget to have a little fun out there.
So poor old Dashwood lost his best buddy Argyle and hasn't heard from him in decades. To learn more about Dashwood's adventures, we can check out his terminal on his desk. His memoirs are split into 3 categories. We'll start with people. He has a note on Argyle, and he describes Argyle as the best manservant a guy could ever ask for. Tough, loyal, and a hell of a good friend, even if he did smell like a bag of rotten meat. But what's a ghoul gonna do? The last time Dashwood saw Argyle was in Rockopolis, decades ago. But he has faith that Argyle is still out there, somewhere. Speaking of Rockopolis, we can learn about the leader of that community, King Crag. He offered Argyle and Dashwood shelter back in the summer of '48, but they were eventually exiled after a, quote, unfortunate little incident with his daughter. Dashwood and Argyle came back many years later after accidentally luring slavers to his city. That was the last time he ever saw Argyle. So it looks like if we are going to find Argyle, we first need to find Rockopolis. Next, he has an entry on Miss Penelope Chase. That two-timing woman got what she deserved. He doesn't elaborate. I wonder if we'll learn more by listening to his radio plays. Then he has an entry on Destiny Chow, my dearest Destiny, harlot par excellence, and the proprietor of the Blue Destiny Brothel, one of the loveliest women I have ever had the pleasure to pleasure. Sadly, she died from cholera in the summer of '49, an event that closed down the brothel forever. What a nasty way to go. Next is Harmon Jurley, a slaver leader and psychotic cannibal. Lived around 2250. See entry on Paradise Falls. All right. Well, let's head on over to places. We can read the entry on Paradise Falls. Dashwood describes it as the most dangerous dump in the capital wasteland. The slavers there would have bought and sold anything with a pulse. They still will, from what I hear. Paradise Falls is still around. We'll have to visit it one of these days. Back in my day, Dashwood says, they were more disorganized. Their leader was a guy named Harmon Jurley, a psychopath who was rumored to eat the slaves he couldn't sell. Alright, well that didn't give us very much more information than his own entry. Next up is Rockopolis, an underground city. Not a bad accomplishment, all things considered, but their leader, King Crag, became too isolationist for his own good. Okay, so I accidentally led the slavers there and those jerks cleaned the place out. It was an honest mistake. Oh, great. If we find Rockopolis, will it be a graveyard? Next is the Blue Destiny Brothel, the best damn whorehouse in the capital wasteland. Strong booze and soft women. It shut down in the summer of '49 when most of the ladies died from a cholera outbreak. Oh, that's horrible. Looks like he's a fan of the underworld. He says it's a city of the dead, or undead, as some would believe. Underworld was and is a settlement of ghouls, established in an old art exhibit in the Museum of American History. Argyle and I used to go there quite a bit. I was even voted honorary ghoul back in '51. I really should go back and visit sometime. It's nice to know that Dashwood has such a understanding view of ghouls, but of course he would if he traveled with a ghoul sidekick named Argyle for years. I did a video on the underworld. You can watch that here if interested. And finally, he has notes on Megaton, a town built around an undetonated atomic bomb, my kind of place. Megaton is pretty well fortified now, but back in my day it was even more ramshackle. Great place to grab a drink or abroad. I hear Moriarty even has his own place now. Guess that shouldn't surprise me. That guy had been playing the angle since the day he ended up in this country as a kid. Another hint at transatlantic travel. Since Moriarty has a thick Irish accent, we can presume he came here from Ireland as a child. I'd love to know more about that. Finally, he has a list of pests. On Mirelurks, he says, tough to kill but pretty delicious afterwards. The outer carapace is hell to penetrate, though. Good thing their face isn't armored. And Argyle had such a good right jab. On feral ghouls, he says these are ghouls gone bad. Their brains had rotted through so much they lost the ability to think straight. Argyle and I fought these hapless zombie bastards more times than I can count. I think he actually liked killing them, saw it as some sort of revenge against God for his own situation, or something. Well, hopefully we can ask Argyle more about his love for killing ferals when we meet him. Next up is an entry on rad scorpions. And this entry tells us the most we know about the rad scorpion origins. He says, I've been to a lot of places in my day, and everywhere you'd find these damned rad scorpions. Rumor was they'd descended from emperor scorpions, which you could find in pretty much any pet store in the country when the bombs fell. I guess that explains their population. That's a handy way to explain why there are scorpions on the west and east coast, even though scorpions aren't native to DC or Boston. Next, he has an entry on the Guai. Bears, or the Capital Wasteland's equivalent anyway. You're not going to find one of these babies balancing on a big rubber ball, though. I can tell you that much. They're as vicious as they come. Razor-sharp claws, razor-sharp teeth, nasty, nasty temperament. We're going to see more of them in a minute. And finally, he has an entry on robo-brains. I have to admit, I've always been fascinated by these things. Such an ingenious creation. A robot powered by a brain and a sexy dame's voice. Of course, I always had to wonder, were they human brains? Were they actually the brains of sexy dames? Or is it all monkey brains and recordings? Anyway, I got hit by one of their mind blasts once. Hell of a headache for 3 days. We do learn how the Robo-Brains came to be after installing the Automatron DLC for Fallout 4. I did a video on the Robo-Brain Lab, which you can watch here, to find out their true history. But that is the extent of the knowledge that Herbert Daring Dashwood has on the Capital Wastes, and the poor guy is missing his best friend Argyle. Let's see if we can go find him. Along the way, we should probably listen to the radio plays. After all, Three Dog put so much effort into them, and since Dashwood tells us that they're mostly true, at least based on real events, maybe we can get some insight to where we can find Argyle. There are 4 radio plays in total. While listening to the plays, we'll be exploring the Guai tunnels. These tunnels are buried deep in the rocks, a bit northwest of Tenpenny Tower, which also happens to be the likely location of Rockopolis. It's a great place to explore along the way.
You're listening to the adventures of me, Herbert Daring Dashwood, and my stalwart ghoul manservant, Argyle. Today's episode, Escape from Paradise Falls. So, Little Faith, boss, I could disarm this slaver junk with my eyes closed. 1 second. There, now for yours. Stand still. Argyle, you magnificent bastard! You did it! Don't thank me yet, boss. We still need to get out of here. Let's go, while the guard's away from the front gate. Not so fast, my flesh-rotten friend. That girl we came in with, we're the only chance she's got. Come on! Always with the dames. All right, she's locked in there. They call it the box. First, we need to remove that guard. Allow me. Hey, fella, got a light? Huh, Lotus? Kick, yay! Ha-ha, now the door. Child's play, boss. Okay, lady, you're rescued. Now let's get out of... What? Boss, it's empty. Hands up, chumps. Nobody escapes from Paradise Falls. Now let's move back to the pen nice and slow before...
Drop the steel, you slaver scumbag. You boys all right? I busted out of that box and was almost home free when I noticed your predicament.
Wait a minute. We do the rescuing around here, sister. Now, Argyle, no need to be hasty. We owe this young lady our thanks, Miss...
Penelope Chase, fortune hunter. You can buy me a beer later. Now let's cut this shindig short and get the bloody hell out of here. Come on.
Argyle, old friend, I think I'm in love. Be sure and tune in next time for another exciting adventure of me, Herbert Daring Dashwood, and my stalwart ghoul manservant, Argyle.
So Dashwood and Argyle were trapped by slavers but managed to free themselves with the help of Penelope Chase, fortune hunter. The saga continues in Episode 2, Super Mutant Mayhem.
You're listening to the adventures of me, Herbert Daring Dashwood, and my stalwart ghoul manservant, Argyle. Today's episode, Super Mutant Mayhem. That'll teach those slaver slime bags to follow us. Looks like that's the last of them, boss. So, Miss Chase, how did you come to be, held up in Paradise Falls?
My friends call me Penelope. And let's just say those slavers don't take too kindly to people disrupting their caravans. And by disrupt, I mean blow up.
Ha! Now that's what this wasteland needs. More women with spunk and explosives. So tell me, Penelope, what's the next stop on... Stupid human! Shut up now! You come with us now! Super mutants!
Out of the frying pan.
Now see here, you hulking horrors. This young lady has been through quite enough for one day. Holster your weapons or...
Why is your ghoul friend picking their pockets? This is no time for sticky fingers, Daring.
It's not what he's taking out, my dear, but rather what he's putting in. Duck and cover! The old Shady Sands shuffle. It sure brings me back. You two smooth skins, okay?
My, Argyle, you are rather resourceful for a ghoul, aren't you?
Are you kidding, my dear? Argyle has saved my skin more times than I care to remember. I hardly know how I got by before I met him. With all due respect, boss, you didn't. If you remember, it was me who got you out of that little situation in... Ah, now, Argyle, old chum, let's not, bore the beautiful Miss Chase with those ancient exploits.
Oh, I don't know, Daring. For example, that name of yours, I happen to like. Herbert. Why, the...
Boss, that sounds like a kid screaming, and it's coming from those ruins. Quite right, old chum. Save those questions, Miss Chase. If we survive what happens next, I may even answer them. Be sure and tune in next time for another exciting adventure of me, Herbert Daring Dashwood, and my stalwart ghoul manservant Argyle.
So it has a name. All this time, pickpocketing an enemy and placing a grenade on their inventory is called the Shady Sands Shuffle. A fitting name and a Fallout 1 reference. Shady Sands is the name of one of the very first towns we visit, and it shows up again in Fallout 2. But now on to episode 3, in the Black Widow's Web.
You're listening to the adventures of me, Herbert Daring Dashwood, and my stalwart ghoul manservant Argyle. Today's episode, in the Black Widow's Web. Well, those super mutants are persistent if nothing else. A word of advice, keep running.
In those hills up there. Isn't that where the hidden village of Rockopolis is located? If only we knew where it was.
Turns out you're in good company, Miss Chase. Argyle and I are old friends of Rockopolis. Know the secret knock and everything.
Boss, that's privileged information. You can't just...
Now, old chum. Miss Chase is hardly going to violate the secrets of Rockopolis. Isn't that right, Miss Chase? Besides, necessity calls.
So you do know where it is. Well, come on then. Those super mutants can't be far behind.
Just over here, this large boulder. And now, the secret knock. And voila!
Now that's what I call a getaway, Daring. So tell me, do you take all your girlfriends here?
Oh no, Miss Chase. I can assure you this will be our special place.
Listen to yourself, boss. This is Rockopolis, one of the safest places in the wasteland, and you just showed a stranger where it is.
Ignore my manservant's mutterings, Penelope. He has a penchant for the dramatic, you see. Why, one time...
Oh, I don't know, Daring darling. I find the ghoul's instincts to be frighteningly accurate.
Here I thought we were friends, and now you have a gun in my face. Bad form, Miss Chase, bad form.
Jabber all you want. In about 30 seconds, my associates from Paradise Falls will join us.
I knew it. I knew this dame was no good. But it's worse than I thought. She's the Black Widow, the leader of the slavers.
Quite right. We've been trying to capture these Rockopolis rodents for years. Never could have done it without you, Daring.
Looks like I've gotten us into one heck of a pickle, Argyle, old chum. One heck of a pickle indeed. Be sure and tune in next time for another exciting adventure of me, Herbert Daring Dashwood, and my stalwart ghoul manservant Argyle.
So Penelope Cruz is really the Black Widow, and she's working for the slavers. And Dashwood led her right to the secret city of Rockopolis. Well, at least we know the secret knock. If we ever find that stone, we now know how to enter. The story concludes in the final episode, Between Rockopolis and a Hard Place.
You're listening to the adventures of me, Herbert Daring Dashwood, and my stalwart ghoul manservant Argyle. Today's episode, Between Rockopolis and a Hard Place.
Just ease away, zombie. No funny business.
Funny business? Miss Chase, you hurt my feelings. I mean, there ain't nothing funny about the Eagle Claw.
Ah!
Good God, Argyle. You ripped out her heart.
I always knew this broad was heartless. Get it, boss? Heartless.
Your kung fu skills may be unparalleled, old chum, but your comic delivery leaves something to be desired.
What is the meaning of this?
Oh, magnificent King Crag, fearless leader of Rockopolis, it's me, Daring. Daring Dashwood?
Herbert Dashwood? I should have known. But who is this? This dead woman? And is that her heart? She's the least of your worries, Craggy. In a few seconds, the slavers are gonna be breaking down your rocky front door. Slavers? You led the slavers here? To Rockopolis? You idiots! Do you realize what you've done?
Inspired you to tighten your defenses?
Dashwood! Warm welcome's over, boss. Time to scram! Citizens of Rockopolis, destroy these interlopers!
This way, Argyle, into the caves. It's our only chance. They're gaining on us, boss. That cliff up ahead, you think you can jump it? You ain't as spry as you used to be. Child's play, you withering worrywart. What's this? Whoa! Boss, don't worry, I'm coming. Best hurry, old chum. I can't hang on much longer. I think this could be the end of... Be sure and tune in next time for another exciting adventure of me, Herbert Daring Dashwood, and my stalwart ghoul manservant Argyle.
But that's it. That's the final radio play. So Argyle killed Black Widow by tearing out her heart with the Eagle Claw Kung Fu move. And we know exactly why King Crag groaned when he saw Dashwood. Dashwood had previously seduced his daughter. And when King Crag discovered that Dashwood had led the slavers here, he ordered his entire city to attack Argyle and Dashwood. Sounds like Dashwood tried to leap over a ravine, but he didn't make it across, and clung to the edge of the cliff while Argyle raced forward to try and help. But then we heard the sound of falling rocks, and the radio play ended. What could it mean? We'll head off to find Rockopolis in a minute, but first we'll finish up here in the Guai tunnels. We found the body of a dead settler, and on her corpse was the Guai den note. Nan needs to cut it with these crap stories about the beasts lurking in the depths of the cave. The nonsense is scaring the children. I've set up makeshift barriers until we have the time to make permanent ones. The barriers are there more for my own sanity than anything. We've been in this cave for a month now, and we've finally been able to get everything settled. It's nice to be inside and not have to worry about raiding parties overrunning our camp at night. We're safe here, and that's all that matters at the moment. Sounds like she didn't heed the words of her Nan and seriously underestimated the Guai. Sitting on a box near this corpse is the sneak bobblehead. The inscription on the base reads, "The safest distance between 2 points is a shadowy line." This bobblehead permanently increases our sneak skill by 10. After retracing our steps and leaving the tunnels, we find the entrance to Rockopolis by walking southeast from this location. Now, Rockopolis is an unmarked location, so it's not going to show up on our compass, and it's pretty tricky to find. You can also find it by walking due west of Smith Casey's garage. There's a random encounter hotspot just outside the entrance to Rockopolis. In my game, it was a scavenger selling scrap and salvage with a pet dog and a Brahmin. There's also a big barrel on fire just outside the entrance, and the entrance is marked by a string of small, colorful flags. There's also a coat rack leaning against the rock just outside the entrance, and the entrance does appear on our local map on the Pip-Boy. Again, it's not a marked location, so we can't fast travel to it, and taking a look at our world map, we don't see it. But as you can see, it's just southeast of the Guai tunnels. To access Rockopolis, we can use the secret knock we heard on the radio plays, and activate the big rock door to the city. Inside, we see 2 big lanterns illuminating a small cave. There's a lone wanderer motorcycle sitting right next to a big couch and a ham radio. And on a writing desk nearby, we see a holotape. Rollings, we're done. Rollings. That's the last of these hole dwellers. Yurley wants to shop them around up north. Not sure if they'll make good slaves since their eyesight is so crappy, but that's not our problem. So gather the boys and saddle up. Next stop, the pit. So the slavers from Paradise Falls succeeded in rounding up all of the citizens of Rockopolis, and they not only sold them as slaves, but they sold them to slavers from the pit. These poor people were sent to Pittsburgh. Perhaps we'll see them in an upcoming video. Looking north, we see a big torch on fire, and on the ground we find the body of Argyle. On his corpse is only 20 caps, so he didn't make it. Right next to his body is the unarmed bobblehead. The inscription on the base reads, "When words fail, there's always fists." This increases our unarmed skill by 10 points. Poor Argyle. If the radio plays can be believed, he was such a loyal manservant, and Dashwood was just a bumbling fool. The radio plays must have a hint of truth, though. We do see a big pile of rocks blocking up what must have been the entrance leading deeper into the city. Some of this doesn't make sense. We were led to believe from the play that there was a cliff or a ravine. Dashwood somehow dropped down it or made his way to the other side. But we don't see any of that here. Instead, we gather that as Argyle and Dashwood were fleeing after King Crag sent his citizens to attack, they accidentally triggered some sort of cave-in. Dashwood managed to flee with his own life, but sadly Argyle got crushed under the rubble. To leave, we can climb a ladder out of a hole in the rock. Well, Dashwood wanted us to stop by if we ever learned more about the fate of Argyle. Heading back to Tenpenny Tower, we can say, I found Argyle, and I'm afraid he's dead.
Dead? Argyle? You're sure? My God. I always thought he'd outlive me by at least 100 years. Poor bastard. But thank you. Thank you for telling me. At least now I know. At least now the poor guy can catch a breather. I'd like to return your kindness. Here, take this key. It unlocks my safe. Lots of stuff in there I'll never use again. My adventuring days are over.
With that, he gives us a key to his safe, and we can head back to his private quarters to find the safe in the southwestern corner of the room by his bed. Inside, we find a stash of 250 caps, 5 mini-nukes, a bunch of chems, and the schematics to the bottle cap mine. If this is the second bottle cap mine schematics we've found, it improves the bottle cap mine we can produce, and we get version 2. And that is the full story of Herbert daring Dashwood and the fate of Argyle. You know, despite Herbert Dashwood being one of the more tolerable residents of Tenpenny Tower, since he actually likes schools and respects them, I still walk away from this thinking that he's a bit of a jerk. His foolishness and bravado led to the entire kingdom of Rockopolis being enslaved by slavers and being sent to the pit in Pittsburgh. And based on what we saw, after they triggered the cave to collapse, Dashwood just left with his skin, leaving Argyle behind to die. After the dust settled, surely he could have crawled back to check on his friend, at least to see that he was dead. But no, instead he just kind of walked away from these rocks and went on with his life for the next couple of decades. At any rate, at least we can write the final chapter to this story and close the book. What are your thoughts on the tales of Herbert daring Dashwood? Did you enjoy these radio plays as much as I did? I thought they were a wonderful touch to Galaxy News Radio. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I publish a new Fallout video 6 days a week on a wide range of topics spanning all of the games. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss my next video, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.